You're listening to the official Minnesota Wild podcast, presented by Acrisure.
From the ponds to the pros, it's time for Beyond the Pond on The Fan. Here are your hosts, Pat Micheletti and Kevin Fallness.
Let's talk hockey!
A Saturday morning on Beyond the Pond, and we're coming from you from all points that you can imagine. Kevin Fallness at Breezy Point, Brett Blakemore behind the glass in the St. Louis Park studios. And if everything's working correctly, fingers crossed, rub your lucky rabbit foot, Pat Micheletti joining us from Points Unknown there in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Patrick, good morning.
Good morning, Kevin. Good morning, Brett. Yes, a very snowy Ann Arbor, I should say, also.
We got a little snow up here, too, over the course of the last 24 hours, having some fun at my Pee-wee's youth hockey tournament. And I know you're having fun up there in Ann Arbor as well. Set the scene for us at Yost Arena. Never been there, but I understand there was a heck of a hockey game, although the Gophers fell short in overtime.
Yeah, you know, believe it or not, that was my first time ever in the historic Yost Arena in Michigan. Never played there in my college days, and so that was my first time in there. Great atmosphere, really good hockey game. Unfortunately, the Gophers lose 3-2 in overtime, but you know it was a game I think they let slip away from them a little bit. You know, key point in the game, Kevin. Minnesota's up 1-0. They score a goal. It gets reviewed, and it was offside by about a quarter of an inch. So they take the goal away, face off outside the blue line. Michigan goes down and scores 7 seconds later, ties the game. So instead of it being 2-0 for Minnesota, it's 1-1. And then Michigan got another one to go up 2-1 heading into the third period. And, you know, Minnesota played hard, fought back, tied the game, and then end up losing it in overtime. Actually got a penalty. You know, their power play has been running at about...
Yep. And this is where the technical part of this is going to come into play. Tonight. Yeah, we lost you a little bit there, but we got the gist of it. I'll fully admit I didn't watch any of the game because I am out of town. But looking at the box score, I don't see the Snuggeroods, the Oliver Moores, the Woods. Did they do something defensively against the Gophers to limit those guys, and you needed the depth scoring to step up? Yeah, why don't you do that? Go ahead and set him up, and I'll kind of set the scene for the rest of the show. You know, and sometimes the technology thing works great. Sometimes it just doesn't. He's sitting in a hotel there in Michigan, and right now it's obviously not working for Pat Micheletti. Do you want to get involved in the show? We'd love to have you. We're giving away more tickets today, and we'll do that via TalkBack, so you can send those in. You know how that works via the free iHeartRadio app. Go ahead and send in your submissions. I don't have any kooky game for you this time. You don't have to make a poem or do any of that. Let's just talk some hockey. There's a lot of great hockey going on, whether it's the Gophers, whether it's college hockey, the youth stage, and, of course, we got basically what is the Olympics right now going on for the Four Nations tournament. If anyone thought that this was just going to be some gimmick to just throw out there to kill 2 weeks in the middle of the NHL season, man, have you been mistaken. And hopefully you've had a chance to take in this action because it has been so fun. I cannot wait for tonight. I think the 1 o'clock game or noon, whatever it is, between Finland and Sweden will be fun. But, man, I cannot wait till they drop the puck on the USA, Canada, 7 o'clock here local time. That'll be worth tuning in for. So hopefully you get the opportunity to do that. We can also take your texts. I'm out of the studio, but I got access to it. You can send those in at 646-86. Throughout the course of the show, we've got a lot of hockey coming your way, as you would expect on Beyond the Pond. Tony Scott from the Youth Hockey Hub is going to join us at the bottom of the hour, and he'll give us our update on everything going on the youth scene, which is vast. Especially for the girls, they're making their way to St. Paul already. The Girls State High School Hockey Tournament is right around the corner. Boys section's right around the corner as well. So we'll get up to date on that from Tony Scott. We're going to hear from Michael Russo probably around 11 o'clock, hopefully. He's got a very busy day. He's the busiest guy in all of sports. Just ask him. And I'm sure he's blogging as we speak, but he's going to be covering the Four Nations tournament game coming up here in a little bit between Finland and Sweden. So we'll get boots on the ground there from Michael Russo if he can squeeze us in. Pat set up the goalie coach for the Golden Gophers, so that should be pretty cool, somewhere in that 11 o'clock hour as well. And then lots of interaction between us, you, me, Pat, Brett Blakemore, and everything going on in the world of hockey. Do we have Patrick back, Brett?
We do.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. You know what? It's better safe than sorry, and I think this phone connection will work well. When I last left you, I was asking you about if Michigan did something to shut down the big boys from the Golden Gophers. I didn't see the game. I only watched the box score.
Turning point in the game, Kevin, was Minnesota was up 1-0 and made it 2-0. However, Michigan challenged an offside and won. It was about a quarter of an inch. It was probably the right call, but you hate those calls, right? Because Minnesota had the puck in the zone for about 15 seconds before they scored, and then of course you come back and look, and it was about a quarter of an inch offside. And 7 seconds later, Michigan ties the game. So instead of it being 2-0 Minnesota, it's 1-1, and then they get one late in the period, so they take a 2-1 lead into the third period, in a period which I thought Minnesota dominated play. Now, Minnesota comes back in the third, ties it up. Both teams have really good chances to win it. Goes to overtime. Minnesota takes a penalty, and a Michigan power play, which has been going at about a 36% clip in the last 8 to 10 games, was the difference. And they scored on the power play, a 4-on-3, and that was the game. So really good hockey game, and I expect another one tonight.
You and Wally typically on the radio have Bob Motzko on in the post-game show. How was Bob after that one?
He was fine. He, obviously he thought they let it slip away a little bit, but other than that, he was concerned coming into the series, being off for 2 weeks, how they would come out, and so from that perspective, and I was too, and I was pleasantly surprised at how sharp they were when they came out in the game to start the game. And in my opinion, played a really, really good game. Michigan is a good team, and you look at their record and where they are in the standings, and it's simply because Michigan shoots themselves in the foot so often with undisciplined penalties, and last night they were much better in that area. And when they're like that, they're as good as any team in the country. So, I thought it was a really, really good game. Liam Soulier got the start and goal last night. I thought he was terrific, and so I expect another really good game later on today.
Tell us about the guest that you have set up for 11:20. And speaking of Soulier,
Brennan Podersay, who is the assistant coach, goalie coach, if you will, and I always like talking to Brennan because he teaches me so much about what a goaltender's thinking, what he's doing, and he's got a really good mind for the game, and so it'll be good to talk to him at about whenever Russo gets done talking, right? Looking forward to talking to him and getting his perspective on last night's game also.
That should be just over an hour from now, and that should be fun. And, of course, plenty of time to talk all things college hockey, not just the Golden Gophers, but we'll take a tour around the NCAA men's hockey and figure out what's going on in that world. The NHL off for 2 weeks, but, man, Patrick, I was hopeful what this tournament would be like. If the first two games are any indication, man, we are in for one hell of a day here in both those games going on in Montreal coming up later on today.
Fun to watch, isn't it? I tell you, the pace at which they play, the precision of the passing, of the shooting, of the goaltending, and that's what you get when you get the best against the best. And you can look at the U.S. Game, 6-1 it ended, right? A couple, you get late ones like that. But I thought Finland was really good in the first period, but you can tell when you have three of your top D that are out, what a difference it could make. And the U.S. just, kept pressuring them and pounding them and created those, the Kachuk brothers were fabulous. And along with Brett's favorite player in the middle when they put those together. But Finland's really good too. So the hockey fans have been treated to some great hockey.
From a selfish standpoint, how about the play of the Minnesota Wild players, whether it's the three guys on Sweden, and all three of them were fantastic, especially Philip Gustafsson, who is the only reason why Sweden got a point out of that game. And then you look at what both Boldy and Faber did for the Americans.
It's fun to see, isn't it? I thought, Boldy was really good. I thought Brock came out, and who wouldn't be in that situation? You're kind of in awe. He's still a young kid, but they made the switch, breaking up him and Hannafin, and they put him with Slave, and I thought he was terrific. He really played well. After he got kind of used to, okay, here I am, I got to play now, and so I thought he was great. And all the Wild players, I mean, just you can. Just stick your chest out a little bit, saying, "Yep, that's our team." And all these guys, Ek, I thought was terrific, and Brodin with the big goal for Sweden. So, you talked about Gustafsson, and that's a real, just a huge confidence boost for him in the way he played. So, everything looking good from that perspective.
Yeah, it should be fun. Again, Finland against Sweden. I think it's at noon local time, 7 o'clock tonight. I cannot wait for that one. It'll be Team Canada taking on Team USA. Really, it should be fantastic hockey. It already has been. You didn't hear it before Dave and Trent signed off, and I have to get Brett to pull this clip for me. Trent Tucker said to Dave as they were signing off, he goes, "I don't think there's any doubt about it, Davey. The hockey is the best sport on the earth." It's not exactly what he said, but something to that extent. It was so great. You got to pull that cut for me, Brett, and we got to get that on here at some point. That was great.
That's a liner
no
right
one
there.
loves the game more than Trent, and he's got a couple boys playing, and and by the way, they're both very, very good players. And
that's what I hear.
So, I mean, he loves the sport. He understands the sport. You can talk hockey with Trent, and, there are times when I'm like, I didn't think of that. You're right. Well, Trent's highly intelligent anyway, but talk about a guy who knows the game, understands the game, loves the game, and, that's great. And by the way, he's got it right, too, doesn't he?
I will agree with him. I don't think Dave did. I think Cindy was a little stunned at that exclamation and that proclamation, but it was really good. Have you ever spent any time up at Breezy Point?
A little, but not nearly as much as you, and so no, to be quite honest. I go up north, the Iron Range, Kevin. That's my.
I know.
I can't go to any other lakes other than the ones up there.
I understand. I kind of grew up in the Breezy Point area. We'd come up here during the summer every other year, something like that. And we spend a lot of time. It hasn't changed a lot from the time when I was growing up. The golf course is still here. I think it's 9 holes, and there's all kinds of golf in and around the area. But the place that we're staying at, we've got a little corner spot. I'm looking at the lake, and it's frigid up here. There's no worries about any of these ice houses falling through the ice because it is frigid, ice cold. But they've got a great setup for us. The Pee-wees, like I said,
how's
they've got
the tournament thus far?
It's been good. We won yesterday against Eden Prairie, I think it was, and then today we went toe-to-toe with Bloomington Jefferson. The Baby Blue was out there. We blew a 3-1 lead and ended up losing in the shootout. But we're having fun, and that's what it's all about.
Hey,
I don't know how.
Matters,
we only had a 10 o'clock.
The boys are having fun, and that's what it's all
Absolutely.
about. We lose sight of that sometimes.
Yep, for sure. They're having a blast. We had a 10 o'clock game on Friday morning, so that was kind of strange, and then nothing the rest of the day. Today, I think we do have 2 games, and then we hope for an early game tomorrow. We'll see how it goes. But that's the update from Breezy Point. Let's get that first break out of the way, Patrick, and then when we continue, we can get to hear some of Brett Blakemore's breakaways. How's that sound?
Sounds great.
All right, we'll do that after a break. Again, submit your talkbacks. What do you want to talk about? What do you want to hear about? What's going on in your world? Your thoughts on this Four Nations tournament? Were you skeptical at the beginning of it, and now you're a fan? I can't imagine. They're talking about bringing back the All-Star game next year, even though they have the Olympics. Huge error. If they do anything short of this going forward. Awesome to hear that the World Cup of Hockey is coming back in 2028. That's good news. But take the All-Star games and shootouts and shoot them into the hottest part of the sun. Get rid of them from this point forward. I doubt that'll happen. But when we continue, Brett Blakemore's breakaway. So look for your interaction via the talkback, and it's 64686.
This is Kevin Gorg, and I'll give you hundreds of reasons to listen to Micheletti.
Whoa.
Good, hundreds. It's beyond the pond.
So strange to go 2 weeks in the middle of the season. It's February, and there's no Wild hockey. Like the big boys said, the Wild are back on the ice Saturday in Detroit, a matinee. That's the next time we'll take the airwaves with the Minnesota Wild Radio Network. Joe O'Donnell and Tom Reed taking a breather here, along with the majority of the Wild players. But a good chunk of them are in action in Montreal. And we'll have Michael Russo at the top of the hour to talk about that. Hopefully he can join us. He has a very busy schedule, very busy writing down stuff and putting it on his little blog. So hopefully we can catch up with Michael. But, Patrick, it's that time of day. Let's get to Brett Blakemore's breakaways.
It's time for Brett Blakemore's breakaway.
Here's a break. Kaprizov in alone. Nobody going to catch him. Kaprizov scores!
And now, Blakemore's breakaways.
All right, Brett, how's things in your world? We haven't had a chance to say hi to you yet. What's going on in the world of Brett Blakemore?
Oh, things are looking up, Kev, because I am fired up probably more than ever for an international game. Like, this is appointment viewing, lock in on the couch, don't even leave during intermissions. Like, I might even watch the pregame coverage tonight of USA-Canada. That's how excited I am. And I want to start here with the breakaways. Patrick, are you with us?
I'm here. I'm just minding my own business, waiting for the first question.
Well, here's the first question. Back when the Jack moniker begun, this was years ago when he was in Buffalo, and I said something along the lines of he's going to be USA's number one center. Like, the next time they're in the Olympics, he will be USA's number one center. And you laughed me out of the building, started calling me Jack just to get me going. As we look at the lines from morning skates, your number one center for Team USA is Jack Eichel. Would you like to give a public apology to me and the state of Minnesota?
Well, you can say I said that, but I would need proof that I said that. So if you have audio on that, that would be great. And if I said that, then I would wholeheartedly say to you, I'm sorry, Jack.
But why did you start calling me Jack?
I think it was the opposite, because I think I was the one saying, why would you not want this guy?
Oh, come on.
Or was it Kevin saying he'd be no better than a third liner? I can't, you two, talk all the time, and I don't know who to believe. You know what I'm. You see where I'm at, right? So,
let me first say, and again, I have said many, many times, I was dead wrong on Jack Eichel. I didn't buy into him.
Well,
I thought he was a crybaby, selfish little prick when he was playing in Buffalo. I completely, I fall on that knife. I take complete blame for that. Once he got out of that situation in Buffalo, that kid has blossomed. He's an absolute superstar. No doubt about it, and he belongs on the top line.
Kevin, now, since we're on that topic, kind of comparing, who would you take, Mikko Rantanen or Vinny Hinostroza on your team?
No. See, now again, we're twisting things around a little bit. What I said was,
don't we, Jack? Or no?
No, yeah. What I said was, on the first glimpse of Mikko Rantanen in a Carolina Hurricanes uniform, when he came to St. Paul, I noticed Vinny Hinostroza in his debut more than I noticed Mikko Rantanen. That's what I said. Would I rather have Rantanen than Vinny Hinostroza? Yeah, in fact, I would, without a question.
Well, it sounds like you
don't twist things up.
Team. Yeah.
Well, I'll let Jack He
I get you.
It better than I did.
Yeah. You would be my top line center on my gaslighting team. That's for sure. Here we go.
So anyway, Brett, to answer your question, no, I will not be apologizing because you could be just throwing that out there that I said that. I don't think that's fair.
Yeah. All right. We'll just move on. I tried my best. Russo. So it wasn't Russo, but he. In The Athletic, and I think he kind of signed off on it, there was an article that has the U.S. caught up at the top level to Canada in hockey. Will tonight change your opinion? What is your opinion on that? And B, will tonight change it either way? If the U.S. come out dominant, have we suddenly caught them, or is it still we've got a ways to go even if the U.S. wins tonight?
Go ahead, Patrick.
I think our pool is certainly deeper, and as you're seeing, a number of high-quality U.S. players were not selected for this team. Listen, can they beat Canada? Of course they can. And to compare where we are in terms of did we catch them? Listen, the U.S. is right up there with any team in the world. So, yeah, I guess so.
I'd agree with that. I think very much so the U.S. is caught up to Canada. I would still give Canada the edge when you look at McDavid and McKinnon and Crosby and Makar, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. No doubt about it. They are top-heavy in goaltending. I would lean towards the Americans for sure. I don't think there's a lot separating them on the blue line. But that said, no matter what happens tonight, I don't think it makes it. If Canada blew the Americans out of the water, I don't think you could say, well, obviously they're the powerhouse when it comes to hockey, so we bow to them. No, no matter what happens tonight, I think it's a dead even match between the U.S. and the Canadians.
And listen, the U.S. they don't take a back seat anymore, and they are not in awe of playing anybody. And so more so, I think you're going to see, the U.S. be the aggressors in a game like this, and it's going to be a fabulous, fabulous game, and these two teams have a good chance of meeting for that medal, also.
No doubt.
Got one more for you here. Obviously, the national anthem's been a huge talking point in this tournament. Even before the tournament, it was getting booed north of the border. They've instructed them in the last game against Finland to not boo it, and it still happened. I expect a rousing course of boos tonight, and I would say to Canadians up in Montreal, boo at your own risk, because you might be giving the U.S. bulletin board material to go get fired up and bring a little bit more intensity. What are your thoughts? Do you think it's disrespectful? Does it not bother you? Your thoughts on the potential booing tonight of the U.S. national anthem?
Is it disrespectful? Yeah. Do I expect it to happen? Yeah. Should that matter in the grand scheme of things for this hockey game? No. It's politics. What are you going to do? They're unhappy with how things are going. They're north of or south of the border, I guess, when you talk about the Canadians. And if they feel like they need to boo, then God bless them. That's their God-given right.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to have an impact on the game one way or the other. The players have a mission to play the game of hockey and try to beat whatever country that they are playing. That's sport, and it's not politics. So I will, like Kevin, I will leave that one right there. I don't think it'll have any impact on the game.
Several players have spoke out and said they
Canadians are our friends, and they always will be our friends.
Several players have spoke out and say it pisses them off and they find it disrespectful. I'm just saying, boo at your own risk. You might fire the boys up.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Whatever.
You got anything else?
Do you want to go?
I got nothing else.
I got one more if you want.
Go one more.
You can have 5 more. Go ahead.
Well, just for timing purposes and for straddling purposes. The lines did come out. I mentioned that Jack Eichel's the number 1 center from morning skate this morning. But the Tkachuk brothers on his line have been paired up. You have Brady and Matthew. Brady on the left, Matthew on the right on the first line. Do you like uniting the brothers to get that hopefully Sedin-like chemistry, or do you think you got to spread the love?
Absolutely love it. I love it. I want to see you both Tkachuks out there as much as possible.
Yeah. They play a different brand, a different style, and that connection certainly plays a big factor in it. And having a guy like Eichel in the middle, he can feed off that. It's going to buy Eichel more room, and Eichel is dangerous when he has more room. And anything that gets in the way of a Tkachuk, you're going to get hit, and that will open things up for Eichel. And I think that's why they've had the success that they've had. I love the Matthews Gensel combination. Gensel can, Matthews handles the puck so well and creates his own space. And Gensel, he's such a smart player, playing with Crosby for his years in Pittsburgh. He knows how to play off great players, and we saw that the other night with Gensel getting a couple. And so, I like that combination too. And so, listen, you have such a short time frame of putting your team together and getting the right combinations. And after Sullivan made that switch, the U.S. seemed to get going. So I'm not surprised that he's going right back with it.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Matthews-Gensel line. Ho-hum Jack Hughes on that line as well, who's pretty decent talent in the NHL. So
yeah, I mean, it's just you got so much talent, and listen, a lot of people are, I don't know if unhappy is a word with a Caulfield not on the team, with a Tage Thompson not on a team, and you can only have so many of the same type of player, and they structured this team and around getting a third and fourth line that can grind it out, that can defend, that can kill penalties. So there was some method to the madness of selecting a team where you have just so many great players.
Third line includes Matt Boldy and JT Miller. Fourth line includes Kyle Connor. I would say, those are still skilled guys.
Kyle Connor is one of the best goal scorers in the National Hockey League. So, the U.S. is, they're going to be an awfully tough out for any team.
All right, Brett, nice work as always on Brett Blakemore's Breakaways. USA, without a doubt. Pat Micheletti in Michigan. I'm Kevin Fallness up at Breezy Point. When we continue, we're going to check in with Tony Scott. We're going to go on the youth hockey scene and check in on the Youth Hockey Hub weekly report. That's next on Beyond the Pond.
Hey, Wild fans, this is Marcus Foligno, and you're listening to the best hockey show on the planet, Beyond the Pond, right here on KFAN.
Hey, Mom.
Hello, Mr. Fallness. Just wanted to say I love your show and your guys' coverage of the great state of hockey. Just wanted to get you guys' reaction on how great the Wild players showed out in the first few games of the big tournament. and how you think they'll do going forward, and really just how you think that'll set them up for the rest of the season, and you think this will propel those individual players and maybe really help the team down the stretch. Thanks. Have a great day.
A great talk back. Keep them coming. We'll get through them as the show goes along. We're on the air until noon today. It is Beyond the Pond. Heard each and every week right here on KFAN. And today we're going to give away a pair of tickets to an upcoming Minnesota Wild home game when they do get back on the ice here at the starting on Saturday when they're in Detroit. And then I think Tuesday they have the rematch against the Wings at XL Energy Center. So keep those talkbacks coming, and we will fire them off as we go through the show. Pat Micheletti is in Ann Arbor, Michigan. I'm up at Breezy Point, and now we're joined by
how do you think
Tony
it will
Scott.
affect them? And I know we talked about it a little bit earlier, but for young kids, and listen, Boldy's young, Faber is young, Gustafson is young, and so when they come back and after their performance thus far, they're going to understand, and it'll probably take a while for it to sink in that, you know what, we are one of the best players in the world, and right up there, and we can play with anybody. And so I think it's going to just provide a tremendous amount of confidence for those guys going forward.
No doubt. It'll be interesting to see what they look like when they come back, what this does for their confidence once they get back on the ice and start playing games that won't be quite at that intensity level, especially, when you come down the stretch, but it'll only help them in their career going forward, and hopefully it pays big dividends even this season as we make our way towards the playoffs.
And the thing is with players, and you're told you're good, you think you're good, but to then go out and compete against the best in the world, well, then all of a sudden it's like a light switch goes on, and I think it will with Faber and Boldy for sure, and they'll really understand just how good they are, and you'll see it in their play, in my opinion.
Sounds good. We'll get back to that talk at the top of the hour. Michael Russo joining us from Montreal to set the stage for what should be an awesome day of hockey on that level. When you talk international hockey going on up there in Montreal, now we are joined by Tony Scott of Youth Hockey Hub. How we doing, Tony?
I'm doing great. There's a lot of hockey to be played. It was a great week of hockey last week, especially at the girls' level.
Yeah, it sounds like everybody's making their way now. We're punching tickets left and right. Set the stage for us, girls' high school hockey. Where are we?
Well, we were on all 16 section finals last week. Alexandria twice, St. Peter, Duluth twice, East River for 2 games. All 16 tickets have been punched to the state tournament. That's the good news. The bad news is 15 out of the 16 were number 1 seeds, so not a lot of upsets last week of girls' hockey.
What are some of the names then? Give us some of the schools that are coming back to XL Energy Center.
Well, one team that won't be back, we talked about them quite extensively last Saturday, was your Minnetonka Skippers, who beat New Prague 22-0. They were defeated last night by Holy Family. They're the only number 1 seed who didn't make it. A girl named Maëlle Schugel scored her first goal of the year. She's a senior, her 5th of career in overtime to beat the Skippers to send Holy Family to the state tournament. So that's pretty exciting stuff right there.
Tony, was that a mild upset, a big upset, or tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I think that's a good question, Pat. They were like between 6 and 10 in the States, so not a massive upset. But to think about how many years, 4 years in a row, Holy Family's lost to Tonka, and 2 of them in overtime. So there's a lot of happy people in the Holy Family rink today. I'll just say that.
Yeah, I bet. What are some other good storylines going on in girls' high school hockey as we make our way to state?
I'll just give you a couple exciting games that happened this week, and then we'll get to a good storyline in the state tournament. I was up in Thief River Falls and saw Worrell beat Crookston 4-2. Doesn't look that exciting, but if you go to the third period, there were 4 goals scored in the last 5 minutes of the game in a 2-minute, 55-second span. It was just absolutely bananas in that one. It was a total roller coaster ride of a game. I thought it was a fun one to watch. The Warriors are now going for their girls' first ever 4-peat in St. Paul this week. So that'll be exciting. Holy Angels won in double overtime. A girl named Riley Iverson had the game-winning goal in double overtime with 8 seconds on the clock. So a few exciting finishes in the section finals this week, that's for sure.
How about on the boys? You're cutting in and out on me a little bit, and that might be on my end. But the boys' high school hockey, that's ramping up too, right?
Oh, big time. Section Saturdays next week. Seedings come out tomorrow. But there's 4 really good games. There's one 22 miles down the road from you, Mr. Fallness. Warroad visits Northern Lakes, number 1 versus number 6. Northern Lakes is 6-1-1 over their last 8 games. And I don't think anybody's too interested in playing a Mike Randolph team in the first round of the state tournament. And you'll see what the Warroad will be faced today over in Crosby. That'll be a good one. Eden Prairie and Edina play today for the Lake Conference Championship. The Eagles have won 9 in a row, and the Hornets got their top goalie back, Chase Bjorgard, on Thursday night, so that'll be a big bowl for the Hornets.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, regular season still going in action, and now we're gearing up towards the section playoffs?
Correct. Today's the last day of regular season play. 2 more games, and obviously the big one is coming up this afternoon at Aldrich. Before I talk about that one, Cretin-Durham Hall plays White Bear Lake today. 4 of Cretin's best players grew up in the White Bear system. So you can imagine what a rivalry this has become between CDH and White Bear Lake in the last couple of years.
Hey, Tony,
go ahead, Pat.
Your prognostication, what in each section in the boys in A and AA, which 2 sections intrigue you the most, or that people should really keep an eye on?
Well, I was wondering how I was going to get section Pat into the mix this week because there's not a lot of Hibbing talk. But 7A and 7AA are absolutely ridiculous. There could be four teams in each of those sections could go to state. So the Northeast Quadrant, St. Louis County, will have the best semifinals and section finals, in my opinion.
Now, Cloquet has kind of come out of nowhere, haven't they? And aren't they
a little bit
the top?
Yeah, they went down from AA to A, and now they're the number 2 team in the state. But they've lost a few games in the last week. They lost to your Hibbing squad 5-2 this week.
Oh, good to see But so it's really anybody's. You know, you got Hermantown, Cloquet, Hibbing. That literally any one of those teams could win it.
Yeah, and Proctor's done well in the section, too. So 7A is great, but 7AA is like, this week we were laughing in a couple text strings. Nobody wants to win 7AA. Everyone is playing poorly at this point. Andover made a rise. Now they've taken a step back. Obviously, the number 1 team that everyone's thinking about is Rockridge and Grand Rapids, but those 2 teams haven't been great in the last 3 weeks, so nobody knows who's going to come out of 7AA, but it'll be a fun team to watch, that's for sure.
I mean, that's the beauty
Anything
of the
else in boys hockey, or do you want to move to the youth?
When you have, no clear-cut favorite that, and we just kind of sit back and watch all of these games.
Yeah, I think those section games where you don't know who's going to win and there's going to be a loser at the end, that's when it becomes a lot of fun for me. One quick game, Kevin, that we have to mention. Moorhead comes to town today to play the number 2 Tilbury team. So Moorhead's number 1 versus Tilbury number 2. That's always special no matter what time of the year it was. Spuds have not lost since their first game of the year, and the Pioneers are 11-1 in their last 12. So that'll be a great one. I'll be at that one this afternoon over in Maplewood.
How about on the youth scene? You tell me it was a pretty light week in youth hockey.
Yeah, it's so light that I'm going to talk about your St. Louis Park team today in just a minute, okay? That's how light it's going to be. But first,
okay, go ahead.
But there's 4 Minnesota teams up in Thunder Bay this weekend, which I think is kind of interesting. 2 of them are top 10 teams, Edina and Hermantown. They're up there playing against 4 teams from Canada. There's 2 teams from Ontario and 2 teams from Manitoba. I think that's kind of interesting. A lot of why it's so light is the outstate districts like District 12 and District 16 up in north, they're getting started in their playoffs this weekend. All the districts will be wrapped up next weekend. So next weekend is where it all kind of, the rubber hits the road for everybody next Saturday. You know, you're going to have 2 state championships, 20-plus elimination games in boys, and then a pile of youth games next Saturday. So that's kind of our Super Bowl Sunday for us at YHH next Saturday.
Love it. What do you want to know about the St. Louis Park Pee-wees?
I got to know. You know, yesterday they hung 6 goals on Breezy Point and then coughed up a lead today. Like, what's going on with the coaching staff? Are the parents getting a little? Are there a lot of whispers on the coaching staff with the
Kevin got kicked out of the game?
I did not. I do not say that I did that. That did not happen. It was, you know, I mean, I know we're doing this tongue-in-cheek. I don't know how you know that what the results were of those 2 games, but, yeah, they did play very well yesterday. Today they played well. The Bloomington Jefferson goaltender stood on his head. He denied my kid on a breakaway at least 3 times, point blank. It was unbelievable. So, you know, we're doing our best. We ended up with a shootout loss.
But I heard your son is the Vinny Hinostroza of the Orioles. Is that true?
Yes. You know what? I would
only
very close.
What, first period, Kevin, or was it? What was the Ratton
exactly?
Was it
no,
the whole game, or was it you know, just a period where you noticed him more than Ratton?
I noticed him the whole game. The entire game. Thanks for throwing that out there, Tony. That was awesome.
Tony,
thank you very much for your contributions once again.
For bringing that up next week.
No sweat. Next week might be a 2-segmenter. There's so much hockey next week in around the state at the youth level. It's crazy.
I love it. Hey, if we go to Youth Hockey Hub this week and check out your website, what are we going to find today and going forward this week?
Oh, you're going to see a ton of section boys hockey and a massive amount of girls high school coverage. It's going to be, you'll see everything this week on girls high school hockey and boys section.
Awesome. Tony, thanks. We'll talk next week.
Take care, Kevin. Take care, Pat.
Tony Scott, youthhockeyhub.com. They do a great job. Yeah, and he is following the box scores apparently for my Pee-wee team out here at Breezy Point. And like I was telling you, Patrick, they do it right up here. I know you don't spend a lot of time in Breezy Point and probably going to hockey tournaments here, but it's fantastic. They got a little shuttle going to and fro. They've got the rink is, you know, just, I don't know, maybe 3-4 miles away. It's a really nice setup.
Well, you know, then that's why people keep going up there, right? That's why you're up there again. You know, you do it right, and people enjoy it, and you know, it's a great area. So, you know, good for the kids, good for the parents, and you know, good for that area.
All right, let's. I'm going to squeeze a quick break in here, Patrick, because Russo's waiting. He's ready to join us, so I'm going to take a break. Then we'll come back with Russo from Montreal on Beyond the Pond.
I'm Jonas Brodin of the Minnesota Wild, and you're listening to Fallness and Micheletti on Beyond the Pond right here on The Fan.
From the 651 Carpets Plus, home of the Next Day Install Studios, this is FM 100.3 KFXN Minneapolis, St. Paul, The Fan.
Hour 2 of Beyond the Pond rolls forward, and it is our extreme pleasure to go to Montreal and talk to the best writer on the planet. His name is Michael Russo of The Athletic and TheAthletic.com. I know you are strapped for time. You've got a ton of irons in the fire, Michael, and I really appreciate you taking time, not only for us, but also for the great listeners back here in Minnesota.
Well, I appreciate the really nice intro. You must really have needed me.
I'm softening you up. We're letting Pat take this segment off, so you get a double sigh of relief here in that Patrick's actually up in Ann Arbor. The connection, for whatever reason, isn't the greatest, so he's going to sit this one out. But, you know, there's a lot to be jealous about when it comes to you and your profession, but the FOMO going on around here for the folks that are in Montreal, it's amazing, Michael. Those first 2 games were off the charts. I can't wait for this Saturday of hockey.
Yeah, I agree with you. And you're right. I mean, this is where this is why you do the job. I was just thinking today, like how special this is that I'm going to get to watch, not only USA, Canada, but Sweden, Finland, and just again watching Eriksson, Brodin, and Gustafsson the other night. I mean, it's funny because you try to stay totally unbiased as a beat writer, but even upstairs, like everybody was coming up to me. It was like, this is like your dream game. All 3 of them playing so well for Sweden the other night against Canada, and obviously a big game against Finland, and then tonight seeing the best players on the planet that are from Canada and the United States going up against each other. This is something we haven't seen in 9 years, and let's be honest, that 9 years ago, that World Cup of Hockey was sort of also an invented, tournament with teams like Team Europe and Team North America and Team Young Stars, and it just was a kind of a bizarre tournament. So it wasn't like truly, obviously country versus country versus country versus country versus country. It was sort of a made up bunch of teams, and so. And that United States team really embarrassed itself, going 0-3 and losing to Team Europe in one of the games. So I'm really excited for tonight's game. It's been so far really entertaining. I really didn't know what to expect when we got here, Kevin, because you hear all the stuff about glorified All-Star game and all that stuff, but the second those guys went on the ice for practice Monday, man, you just knew that they came to play.
Yeah, so much fun to watch. We'll get back to the 4 nations here in a second, but part of what they've been talking about up there with Bettman and the NHLPA is bringing back the World Cup of Hockey. And what do you think that'll look like in 2028? I mean, assuming, knock on wood, they can figure things out and get Russia involved, but who else would be involved if they do that in 2028?
Yeah, it would be 8 teams. So then if you did that, it would, even though, I mean, what's bizarre about it is that the IIHF is not going to be involved. And since the IIHF is not going to be involved, are they really going to stop their leagues to allow, their European players to come on and take part in that? And the reason why it's only 4 nations right now is because to have an all NHL event, you can't have enough, players from Germany, Czechia, Slovakia to field full teams, Switzerland, and obviously Russia, because of the political reasons, isn't involved. So, the goal is to have 8 nations in 2028 and then 2032 and 2036 and so on and so on. But again, if the IHF is not involved, I just don't know how they're going to get enough players. So obviously something's going to have to be worked out between them. But it is kind of cool. I mean, starting next year with the Winter Olympics, every 2 years there is going to be a best on best tournament, whether on the calendar, whether it's the World Cup of Hockey or Olympics, and that'll be cool. I don't love that it's in February. I get that the Olympics have to be, but the one thing about having it in February is you run the risk of serious injuries going into the playoffs. And Vegas just lost Shea Theodore the other day. There's bound to be other injuries in this tournament. And that's always the concern if you're going to do that every 2 years. And the other thing is, you don't want it to go stale. I do remember when they were doing it every, pretty much between Olympics, World Hockey, it did feel like it was getting stale in the 80s and the 90s. And the other thing is, do these players want to every 2 years give up, 2.5 weeks of their vacation to do it? So, there's the good and the bad with it. As a hockey fan, I think it's awesome, but we'll see how it works.
How do you see things shaping up tonight? If you were going to preview USA versus Canada, I mean, both teams put on such an unbelievable show in their first game of this quote-unquote tournament. What are you expecting tonight as the two powers go head-to-head?
I think it's going to be one hard game. Kachuk brothers are going to go out there and pound bodies. And that's the one thing. If you look at this Canada roster, as skilled as they are pretty undersized. I think they only have 3 forwards over 200 pounds, something like that. And you just know the Kachucks are going to be, going out and running guys. I love the makeup for the lines right now with the Kachuk brothers on either side of Eichel. I love the fact that Matt Boldy is going to get to play with Dylan Larkin tonight and JT Miller. That line was great the other night. And then there's some guys that the other night have to be better. I mean, Kyle Connor wasn't very good. Trocheck wasn't very good. Faber and Hannafin were not very good. The second Faber got with Jacob Slavin, all of a sudden his game did take a much better turn, which Jacob Slavin has that ability to do to you, and they're going to be a pair tonight. So I think Faber was nervous the other day. It was as tough a game as really I've ever seen him play. But I think that we're going to see a much better and much more comfortable Brock Faber tonight playing next to Slavin. But I think it's going to be a fantastic hockey game. I think it's going to be one of those 3-2, 4-3 type games, hard-nosed, and I think it's going to be just a dramatic, fun game to watch.
Hey, Russo, it's Brett filling in for Pat here as he takes a segment off. I asked this question in breakaways because of the article that was out on The Athletic that you've talked about, has the U.S. caught up with Canada in hockey? Do you think tonight will change your opinion, deciding the result, deciding how do you feel about that question, has the U.S., or is it almost irrelevant depending on the result?
Yeah, to me, it's funny that you brought that up. I was actually thinking that yesterday when a lot of people were going with the storyline, and does one game change everything, win or loss? I don't think so. And the other thing is that there's a very good chance, not very good, but there's a good chance that these two teams meet again in the championship. And, in 2010, I covered that preliminary game in Vancouver where the United States beat Canada. That was the last time the United States beat Canada in best on best. And then they lost, obviously, in overtime on the Sidney Crosby golden goal in the championship, so in the gold medal game. So, even if the United States play again, there's a chance that they meet again next Thursday night in the final of this thing. So I don't think it really does. I think, you look at every other level of USA hockey, whether it's World Juniors or World Championships. I mean, we've seen USA beat Canada. We've seen USA get gold medals. It's really only in the best-on-best format of top NHL players that we haven't seen it yet. So I think that there is a lot to prove for them. I think they feel like they've caught up. I feel like Bill Guerin feels like he's put the best collection of talent together that the United States has ever had, and that is even with knowing that the 1996 team was as good as you see in that 2002 Olympic team in Salt Lake City was awesome as well. But to me, if you want to, show that you are better than Canada, you got to win these games. And so we'll see tonight. I think the USA puts on a show tonight.
You got 5 more minutes, or do you need to get out of here?
Yeah, no, I can talk.
Yeah, I just wanted a preview of the first game then. It's going to be the Finns against the Swedes. You'd have to assume that the Swedes are going to be heavily favored in that game. I don't know what the actual betting line is, but all things considered, I mean, Team Sweden gave Canada everything it could handle in the game number 1. What would be your preview of that one?
Yeah, I mean, this is, I think, the first time that they've if I remember, they played together. They played against each other in the 2006 gold medal game in the Olympics. Obviously, this is just a huge rivalry. I mean, I'm just looking right now at the press room here at the arena and seeing all the Finnish and Swedish writers, and they won't even sit near each other. It's hilarious. But to me, Finland is overmatched. Saros the other night was not very good. He's already been pulled, and Lankinen's going to start tonight. Mikhail Granlund didn't get enough ice time the other day. He was by far, I thought, their best player the other night. He's going to get loaded up with ice time tonight. Capo Kakko is going to be inserted in the lineup for Joel Armia. And we'll see. But I just look at Sweden as just being a much deeper team. But, Finland has the ability, to play 1-0, 1-1, 2-1 type games. And that's what they're going to have to do to win this game. But I'll tell you what, for them to win this game, they're going to have to get much better play from guys like William Nylander, Elias Pettersson, Mika Zibanejad. The three of them were atrocious the other night, especially Pettersson and especially Nylander. Nylander was just the gift that kept on giving the other night to Canada. Takes the penalty that leads to the first goal, turns the puck over and doesn't back check on the Mark Stone goal, and then in overtime couldn't handle the puck in overtime, and then it went the other way for the Mitch Marner winner. So he's got to be much better.
You talked about how good the Minnesota Wild players were in those first 2 games. To me, Philip Gustafsson was on another level. Boy, the way he played against Team Canada, especially late in regulation and in overtime, that was unbelievable.
Yeah, it was really special to watch. And I was talking to Johan Garpenlov a couple days ago. on their management team. And he's like, if it wasn't for Gus, they would have easily have gotten their butts kicked against Canada. They didn't have a ton of shots through regulation, at least, but their scoring chances were superb, and he was there every step of the way. And if you're just looking at the goals against, 3 goals or 4 goals, you don't know how well he played. But you think about that Devon Taves save that he made to get the game to overtime right after Eric Sinek tied the game up to force overtime. That was just special. And then in overtime, it's really a shame the Marner goal went in because he was so good. He had made 7 saves in overtime, 4 on Nathan McKinnon alone. Had 1 on Marner, 1 on Point, 1 on Makar that I remember. And that play, it felt like Sweden's coach was doing everything possible not to use Erik Karlsson in overtime. He just kept on pretty much playing Hedman and Forsling. And then finally, those guys were so gassed that he throws Erik Karlsson out there, and 14 seconds later, the game is over. Erik, it was a great reload by Crosby. He goes to the bench for a change. I think that messed up Karlsson, and then Karlsson, terrible gap, and then backs himself right into a screen of Gus. So, but he was outstanding. I thought, Brodin was good. Maybe a little, maybe above average. I didn't feel like the coach loved his game. Didn't play him down the stretch. Didn't play him in overtime. But I thought Eric Sinek was outstanding. Unfortunately, he lost a draw that led to the power play goal. 12 seconds into that power play. But for the rest of the game, his face-offs were outstanding. Obviously scores the huge goal, and I thought he was a really, really good player for them that night.
Selfishly, it would have been awesome to have this tournament in St. Paul. That would be fun to have it in our backyard, but I can't think of a better place on the planet than the Bell Center for the first half of this tournament. It just feels like they're living and dying with every moment of these games.
Yeah, I mean, they just absolutely love hockey up here. Not, again, unlike St. Paul, to your point, but there's just something special about games here. It was spine-tingling watching the pregame ceremonies the other night. When they brought out Lemieux and Alfredson and Solani and Richter, it was just really, really cool to watch. I don't love the booing of the anthems. I understand why they're doing it, but I don't love it. And tonight it's probably going to be way, way worse unless the NHL does something, like the one thing I'm wondering is if, all of a sudden Celine Dion is doing the national anthem. I mean, how can you boost Celine Dion in Montreal, right? So that would be genius if the NHL booked her. So that might be the only way to stop this. But I don't love it. But man, it's just been the show also that the game ops people do during the game. It's just tremendous. There's nothing like watching a game in Montreal, and I highly recommend any Minnesota sports fan that loves hockey to come take a road trip here one day and watch a game in this building.
How do we go back to normal next weekend? The intensity of all these games and how they're being played like the playoffs, and then we're going to go to Detroit a week from today and play the Red Wings in a game with 20-some games left to go in the regular season. How do we go back to normal?
I know, it's so funny that you said that because I was sitting next to Dylan Larkin on the flight out here because I connected in Detroit. And we were talking about that because the Wild play a home and home against the Red Wings right out of the break. And it is, you almost wonder, part of it's like, you kind of wonder if there's going to be this letdown by all the guys that are involved in this tournament, all 60, whatever of them, 80 of them. Because it's like all of a sudden you just go back to, full home regular season. It's bound to be sloppiness. I mean, the majority of the league is on the beach right now. There's going to be some probably needing some detoxing when all these guys get back. And not just, I'm talking on the Wild, everywhere in the league. So, the first couple of days will probably be pretty sloppy hockey, but, when all of a sudden you look at how tight the standings are, it'll be a real reminder to all these guys that they have to come and play and try to get some points.
So you said you're writing on the Sweden-Finland game, and then do you get to just be an interested observer then tonight, just be a fan of the Americans?
No. So basically we have 5 writers covering it for The Athletic. We've divided up. I'm the USA writer, and then, the other guys have their teams, and Pierre LeBrun writes columnists. But for tonight's game, I'm the guy that files the second the game's over, which we call takeaways. But then tonight I'll just cover United States. I'll just do a separate United States story. But during the Sweden-Finland game, I do have to cover that that's actually the harder job because you have to file the second the game's over. So, but I'm excited. I just can't wait for it's good. It's funny because you have this game here. It reminds me of back when I used to cover high schools, where it's like you go to a tournament and you have to cover 3, 4, 5 games a day. And this is kind of what I feel like today. It's like, it's kind of neat that we have a game here in an hour, and then all of a sudden, got to write that up quickly and then get ready for another game. It's pretty sweet.
Well, enjoy it. We're enjoying it like heck back here from afar, but I know being there at Bell Center and then going to TD Garden later this week, it's going to be awesome. Have fun, and we'll talk to you when you're back in Minnesota.
Yeah, see you next weekend, Kevin. See ya.
Love it. That is the great Michael Russo of The Athletic and theathletic.com. What do you think, Brett? Do you think I think he loves his job no matter what, but especially right now. And then I forgot to bring up the fact that I was listening to a different podcast, and he mentioned that he signed a new contract, so he's going to be sticking around for a little while.
Oh,
I didn't know that
right?
was a thing. I didn't know that was a thing. And dang it, I was going to bring that up with him, and now he's gone. But
I didn't know they put out contracts for blogs, but here we are.
Exactly. Well, you can tell it. He's really loving this assignment, can't you?
Oh, 100%. As long as there's no flight cancellation terrorism getting to Boston. I mean, how couldn't you? You're following Team USA and he's had a lot of good bits even when the Wild get eliminated. He'll follow a team. I think he followed Florida all the way to the Cup. So it's a good life being Michael Russo.
Yeah, amen to that. All right, well, let's take a break. We'll get Micheletti back on the line. We'll go back to the college hockey discussion. We're going to talk a little Golden Gophers when we continue. Check in with their goalie coach and, again, recap a 3-2 overtime loss for the Gophers last night in Ann Arbor. Plenty of opportunities for your talkbacks. Like I said, randomly talk back over the course of the next hour or so. We'll get you a pair of tickets to see the Wild in an upcoming home game. If you want tickets, wild.com/hockey tickets. But send those talkbacks. You can also text at 64686. More Beyond the Pond next on The Fan.
This is Wild GM Bill Guerin, and you're listening to Fallness and Micheletti on Beyond the Pond on KFAN.
Visit Touchdown Tile for your
The Fan.
Beyond the Pond continues. Kevin Fallness in Breezy Point. Pat Micheletti out there in Ann Arbor with the Golden Gophers, and that's where we are joined by our next guest, Brennan Podersay, the goalie coach for the Golden Gophers. Brennan, thanks for joining us here on Beyond the Pond.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, guys.
Let me start with this, Patrick, and then I'll turn you loose. Just give us kind of your background. I can read your bio. 4th season here with the Gophers after 6 with Minnesota State. How'd you end up here with the Golden Gophers, and what's it been like on the U of M campus?
Well, I mean, it's so cliche to say this, but growing up in Minnesota, being born and raised in Tower, Minnesota, falling in love was with the Golden Gophers. So to be able and afforded the opportunity to join the staff it's truly humbling and rewarding. And it was kind of out of the blue. My wife was pregnant with our second child, and I got a call from Coach Motzko right around the middle of September. So the season was already getting started in Mankato, and Bob had called. They had had their goalie coach take a different position, and he had just called and said, what do you think about joining our staff, coming in and seeing what we have to offer? And driving into Mariucci the first day all the way up until today, it still gives you goosebumps, and what an extreme honor to be a part of this staff.
Hey, Pods, I bug you all the time. I love talking goaltending with you because I know nothing about it, but you've got 2 goaltenders this year in Liam Souliere, who's a fifth-year guy, and Nathan Airy, who's in his second year. But you have 2 guys with completely, I think I'm correct in saying this, 2 different styles. When you're coaching them, I mean, it's different than coaching forwards, right? You've got your skill guys, you got your grinders. But with goaltending, how do you approach coaching 2 guys with 2 different styles?
Yeah, you're not wrong with saying that. Like I said, Mick, I think I got a stop talking so much goaltending with you because I think you might be coming for my job. But it's a great question. I think every goaltender is different, whether it be personality, whether it be style, and it's been just a joy with both of them. I think the biggest thing that separates is just the personal relationship, starting to understand what makes the guys tick, what motivates them, and then having those guys be comfortable and accountable in what they want to do and discomforts in their game. And both Nathan and Liam have done a tremendous job of being receptive and being accountable in areas of growth and things that they want to do to challenge themselves to ultimately give the team a chance to win on Friday or Saturday.
Yeah. Let's talk about last night. Liam Souliere gets the call last night, his throw. I thought he played terrific, but I'm just watching him make the saves. He had 36. Your perspective on his play last night, and then what do you talk to him about today?
Yeah, that's a great point by you. Great question. I thought he was really good last night. Obviously, anytime that you give the team an opportunity to get to overtime and ultimately give the team a chance to win, I thought he did, his job and made a couple of unbelievable saves to keep us even and get us into overtime. As far as what we talked about, both after the game, just trying to dissect things that he felt confident and comfortable with and things that he thought that he did well, and then just areas of things that I saw. We talked about the first goal. It was a rebound, and Liam's such an intelligent kid with over 100 collegiate games played that, it's almost like talking to a peer opposed to somebody that you're coaching. He was just so intelligent about the fact that, he made the save, and on the rebound, he felt like he kind of panicked opposed to just being calm and pushing and trying to seal the ice and make the secondary save. But again, with a talented team like Michigan, and as well as I do, being there firsthand, you don't have to give those guys a lot of time and space for them to be able to find the back of the net.
Brennan, working with these guys, and not just these guys, but in your career working with goaltenders, how well do you get to know them? And the fact that, can you see in warm-ups, oh, my God, this is going to be one of those nights for this kid, or he's on? How early do you get a read on how these guys are going?
That's a great question. I've learned within my 10 years of, which is crazy to say, 10 years of being involved in college hockey is crazy. Nowhere near some of the rest of the staff and how long they've been involved. But I've learned real quickly through Coach Motzko that not watching the warm-ups is probably a good idea. So the biggest thing for me is just trying to continue to reinforce the habits throughout the course of the week that ultimately are going to set us up for success on Friday and Saturday. So again, there is no secret sauce. It's very fundamental, and it's trying to make sure that these guys feel extremely confident and comfortable going into the weekend and know that they're going to give us the best chance to win.
Hey, Pods, you look at the two goalies, and you have a guy like Souliere, who I think is approaching 100 college games. And, you compare that to a guy like Nathan Airy, who's played, 15, 20 tops. And how much of an influence does a guy like Liam have on a young guy like Nathan Airy? I know they get along great, and Nathan, really leans on Liam for advice. But how important is that?
Oh, it's incredible. And you know what? Nathan has been so receptive as well as approachable to both the older guys, not only Liam this year, but obviously having Justin Close through his first year. What two unbelievable role models to learn from. Just the way that both Justin and Liam handle themselves, the way that they prepare for the weekend coming up. I think the biggest thing is for Nathan is just starting to understand college hockey is Friday or Saturday night. They're both game sevens with how talented our league is, how deep our league is, and how highly touted with the pairwise our league is. It is crucial that it's not junior hockey anymore. You don't have 50 or 60 games to, there's not a throwaway game. Every game is important, and you're
trying to bank as many points as you can, and ultimately, like I said, set yourself up for not only success in the regular season, but ultimately to put yourself in a great spot heading into playoffs.
Talking to Brennan Podersay, the goalie coach there for the Golden Gophers. Brennan, when I look at the goaltending union, I know how it works on the NHL stage. It's basically a team within a team. Freddie Chabot, the goaltender coach, and Marc-Andre Fleury and Philip Gustafson, they've got their own little three-man unit here, and they go off in their little corners and they talk amongst themselves. Is it the same thing with you and your group, or you guys are you're working within a team, but you're also your own team within that team?
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I ultimately, I've been extremely lucky and fortunate that I have a relationship with Freddie Chabot. So I've got an unbelievable group of mentors and people that I can reach out to and ask questions as far as just certain situations that they've maybe gone through and kind of lean on their experiences. But I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Paul Martin. Paul's been such an instrumental mentor for me, not only just with the goaltending side, because he's been so fortunate in his time in the National Hockey League, who he's played with and in front of, with Martin Brodeur, Martin Jones, Marc-Andre Fleury. So it's been unbelievable for me, almost like a little kid in a candy store, to be able to ask him questions. You know, how did Fleury react to something like this? How did Martin Brodeur, how did they communicate with their team? So it's just been it's been so cool and unique to be able to continue to pick his brain and learn from him. But I still think that we're our little union out on an island. We're trying to change that rhetoric, but like we said, we always get labeled as the weird one, so it's something we got to earn and take with a badge of honor.
Yeah. In my years of dealing with goaltenders, most of that is earned, I would say. What is the relationship with Freddie Chabot? How did you guys cross paths, and how do you use him as a sounding board?
Yeah, Freddie's great. I was extremely fortunate when I got into coaching. I think it was my first year, actually. I was with the national development team scouting goaltenders through the Warren Strelo program, and I was afforded the opportunity to come and work the Wild development camp, and that was when Freddie was with the Iowa Wild. So we built a relationship and a friendship there, and it just has continued. I actually worked the development camp 2 summers ago, and anytime the Wild are in town, I always pester Freddie to get in and watch morning skates, and again, just continue to try to learn the drills that he's doing. And then I'll, just ask him any questions again throughout the course of the season as far as things he sees, things that he likes, if he saw our game, because there will be times that he texts me after a weekend and says how the goalie's played, and just extremely fortunate and very, very grateful to have somebody like that I can consider a mentor and a friend.
Hey, Pods, before we let you go, and enough of the goalie talk, right? We talk enough about the goaltenders. What was your takeaway from last night's game? I know Bob thought that maybe you guys kind of let it slip away, but what was your perspective on last night's game?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Mick. Like I said, I'm trying to branch off from just being the weird goalie guy. So it's been great. I've been on the bench for the last 2 years, in large part dealing with the replays with Jacob Leroy, our director of hockey ops. And you know what? I think Coach Motzko is spot on. I think it's obviously you're always a little bit concerned just about the preparation and the energy coming off of a bye week. They're going to be fresh. And it's especially like we talked about how tight the standings are. Michigan's fighting for their life to stay in a home playoff seed. So I thought we came out with energy. I don't think we were as crisp as we would have liked to be, just with possessing pucks, with moving pucks north. And then, I think I was listening to the show early on, and I think you hit the nail on the head as far as that turning point when the goal got reversed from offside, which was so simultaneous. I'm kind of surprised that they made that call. However, you've got to kind of tread forward and not worry about that. And all of a sudden it changed, and Michigan capitalized once, and you could just kind of feel them start to gain momentum. And ultimately, like I said, we did a great job of pushing through and getting it to overtime and, take an untimely penalty. And again, it doesn't need those guys on a power play don't need too much time and space to be able to put the puck in the back of the net.
Awesome stuff, Brennan. Really appreciate it. I know that you've got your hands full whenever Pat Micheletti comes around the corner and you're at the rink, but I appreciate you taking the time to talk to him.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be on here, guys. Again, Mick is northern Minnesota royalty. Growing up on the Iron Range, the Micheletti name is synonymous with success up on the range. So extremely fortunate, and thank you guys so much for the opportunity to come on here and spread a little bit of the goalie knowledge.
You bet. That's Brennan Podersay, a goalie coach for the Golden Gophers. You guys are on the air tonight, 4:30, Patrick, with the pregame show, you and Wally?
Yes, that's correct, 5 o'clock Central Time, and hoping to get that split.
Yeah, I very much appreciated that conversation. He was good. I'd never met his acquaintance before, but Brennan was you brought a good one to us.
Yeah, he's I pick his brain all the time because Kevin, I know nothing about goaltending, right? And he is he's got a really unique situation because he got one guy in the air who's very active in the net, and he handles the puck extremely well. And then you've got Neri, who's more of a stand-up guy, kind of quiet in the net, bigger kid, and so it's really fun to learn about the goaltending position, of which I have no clue at what I'm talking about when I talk goaltending.
Well, I didn't want to ask him. I didn't want to put him on the spot, but I'll ask you. I know for the most part these guys have been splitting time this season. Are we closer to a number one guy here going forward? Is it Soulier?
I asked Bob that the other night, and he was very non-committal on that, and and rightly so. He's had a terrific year. He had a little down spell for a game or two, but really good goalie. And you know what? I don't think it's anything that you have to worry about right now. Soulier, I do not know which way they're going to compete. I'm assuming it will be Soulier again, but we're just going to have to see. These things have a way of working themselves out, and there's 5 games to go, and we hit the playoffs.
Awesome stuff. That's Pat Micheletti out there in Ann Arbor. I'm Kevin Fallness in Breezy Point. We'll break. We got one more segment to go, including your talkbacks. We'll work in a couple of those. We'll also get into your text at 64686, and we'll figure out if someone's going to get a pair of tickets to an upcoming Minnesota Wild game. All that and more next on Beyond the Pond.
This is Ryan Hardman of the Minnesota Wild, and you're listening to the best hockey show anywhere, Beyond the Pond on the Fan.
Morning, Kevin. Eric from Hastings. I was just wondering, does running Team USA have any impact on Bill Guerin running the Wild? Thanks.
Good morning, gentlemen. Tyler from St. Cloud here. I was just wondering about your guys' thoughts about Russia not being in the Four Nations. Do you think they would play very well and dominate, or are you guys disappointed that they're not playing?
Keep those talkbacks coming. We'll get to whatever we can here in the next 19 minutes before we wrap up this edition of Beyond the Pond. Pat Micheletti out there in Ann Arbor. Patrick, let's take that first talkback. Do you think Bill Guerin running Team USA is hampering his ability to run the Minnesota Wild during this time?
Not at all, Kevin. And because he's got Tom Fitzgerald and Drury, Chris Keller, and so they've got a whole staff of people, and Billy, he'll share the responsibilities, and everybody has their job, and that's what he does. He does hockey, right? And so, I think he's got a very good pulse on both teams, and so no, to answer your question. Do you?
The other talk, but no, I don't think so at all. I think this is, what an honor. Are you kidding me? And to ramp up towards the Olympics, which is also unbelievably right around the corner, to be able to be at the helm of that. This is just, if this is the appetizer for Olympic hockey, I can't wait. And I don't think this affects Bill Guerin's job ability to do his job at all here with the Minnesota Wild. The other question about that was about Russia not being included, and
great
of course,
question.
That stinks. Yeah, I mean, it obviously stinks. It would be so awesome to have not only a Kirill Kaprizov involved, if he were healthy, but look at some of the other big names around the world of hockey that can't be involved because of that conflict. I hope they get, for bigger reasons than hockey, I hope they get that whole thing figured out, but it would be awesome to get the Ovechkins and the Kaprizovs and the Vasilevskis and those guys back out there again.
Yeah, the athletes, they just want to play. They don't want to be involved in the political quagmire that exists and the conflicts, and which is too bad, because would it be great to see Kaprizov, Ovechkin, the list goes on and on, be able to participate and play against the best in the world, of course, but circumstances that exist don't allow that, and at some point you hope it all gets cleared up.
Just got a tweet from Brett. He forwarded it on from Elliot Friedman announcing that Jordan Binnington will, in fact, get the start tonight for Team Canada in this latest matchup coming up. Puck dropping about 7 o'clock from Bell Center. I assume that doesn't take you by surprise at all?
Well, I tweeted something out, Kevin, and I'm glad you brought up the goaltending for Canada. And I tweeted something out during the Canadian game against Sweden. And I said, I think it was a mistake that Canada did not consider Marc-Andre Fleury for their goaltending position. I think he's playing as well as anybody in the league. And it's a very short tournament. And he gets, I mean, these type of games get him going. And I threw it out there. And some of the responses I got were, are you crazy? And some were, you know what? That's a pretty darn good idea. And I thought, because I think ultimately what is going to be the demise of Canada, and you brought this up earlier, Kevin, is their goaltending. I don't think it is as strong as the other countries in the tournament, and that could play a factor in them winning this thing. What do you think?
I never thought about the Marc-Andre Fleury angle, and especially with those games in Montreal. Holy moly, what a shot in the arm that could have been for Team Canada. It's something that never even crossed my mind, but you're absolutely right.
It would have blown the roof out of that stadium with the excitement. Plus, the guy is a gamer. Big games, especially on that stage, and the way he's playing. I mean, listen, Minnesota is winning a lot because of the play of Marc-Andre Fleury, and which at the beginning of the year we thought, well, what's he going to play? Get Snit in a little bit and Gus be the guy. Well, Fleury's been a big part of why Minnesota is where they're at, and at 40 years old, he looks like he's 30.
Yeah, no doubt. He's been so much fun to watch, and I every time his name comes up, I say what a blessing it is that we have been afforded the opportunity to watch him. Yeah, it's in the twilight of his career, but man, this has been one heck of a ride. Do you want to take a quick tour around college hockey?
Yeah, boy, there were some upsets last night, Kevin, and Boston College losing, Boston University losing. North Dakota is fighting for their lives, and they lost a tough one on the road to Denver. It looks like those together in the first round. It's just a matter of where is it going to be? Is it going to be in Denver, or is it going to be in Grand Forks? So a really big series and a big game tonight for North Dakota. And those UMD Bulldogs, they struggled early in the season, and they're starting to find some traction with a big win last night over Arizona State, who was on the bubble for the NCAA tournament also. So just a lot of good storylines as we head to the last few weeks of the season.
That was one of the texts that we got in at 64686 about the Bulldogs beating the 10th-ranked Arizona State squad in overtime last night at Amsoil Arena. 3-2 was the final, and you said that was a good one. Denver also with the shutout. They take out North Dakota 4-rip. In Denver, Colorado. Colorado College with a 6-1 victory over Miami, and Western Michigan used overtime to beat Omaha. 5-4 was the final out there in Kalamazoo. That's what's going on in the NCHC. In the CCHA last night, of note, Augustana went to Michigan Tech and got a 5-1 victory. I don't even know where that was at. But
that was in Augustana. That was at home.
In Sioux Falls, and then the other one had Ferris State beating Lake Superior State in overtime. So those are some of the finals from last night in college hockey, and of course, big action coming up throughout the night as well, including in Ann Arbor, where I would think you would expect your Golden Gophers to have a response to last night's overtime loss.
Well, I think I think they feel like they let the game go a little bit last night. I expect them to be better tonight, but you know what? You never know. Michigan is they're a Jekyll and Hyde type team. You know, if they have the ability to get themselves in trouble, with their loose play. But on the other hand, when they're dialed in, when they're focused, they are, as I mentioned earlier, as good as any team in the country. It's a big game for Minnesota in terms of, let's get points on the road, and because it's always hard to sweep a team on the road, and they got one last night, getting it to overtime, and they're certainly looking to win tonight.
Tell me about Yost Arena. We touched on it briefly coming into the show. I've never been there. That was your first trip there last night, and you get the rematch again tonight. What's it like to watch a game in that barn?
Well, it's kind of hard to explain, Kevin. Really, it's an older building. I think upwards, nearly 100 years old, and it's got all metal seating. It's very, very steep. It seats about 55 to 6,000, somewhere in that range. And it's nothing fancy at all by any stretch of the imagination. And, they use it to their advantage very, very well. The fans are right on top of you. The press box, you have to lean over, to see all of the ice, which I know in some NHL arenas like Winnipeg, you have to do the same thing. So it's unique in that way, and it has a lot of history behind it. So it's really a fun atmosphere to be a part of. And when that place gets going, it gets awfully loud.
Yeah, and again, it's a pregame of 4:30 this afternoon. You and Wally on the call, and that'll be locally on Twin Cities News Talk AM 1130 and FM 103.5. You guys were on the Fan though last night, from what I understand, and it sounded like you put on a heck of a show. Yeah,
it was on KFAN. And yeah, I mean, the game was such a good game. It was back and forth, and the shots ended up 36-29, and a lot of the games you'll see, there's just not a lot of room. The neutral zone clock. Play. You have so much skill on the ice, and we saw a lot of great. And that's college hockey, Kevin. You watch the best players in college hockey be able to make plays. Have goaltenders come up, with saves. I mean, Hogan saved a terrific save.
Let's say goodbye to Patrick. That's enough of that. Patrick, great work as always. We did our best. That's all anyone can ask for. Next week, at least, we know Patrick, no matter what happens in Ann Arbor tonight against the Wolverines, Patrick will be back in the State of Hockey next week. We'll do this face-to-face in the KFAN studios, and we'll be talking about the Golden Gophers taking on Ohio State. A shorter show next week. I don't know if you know this, Brett, but it's going to go right into the matinee of the Wild and the Red Wings. They dropped the puck on that thing I can't remember off the top of my head. It must be 11:15 pregame. Puck drops just after 11:30. They're in the Central Time Zone from Detroit, so it'll be an hour and 15-minute show next week in studio.
Now, are you going to be at the X? Are you going to be at Casa de Fallness? How's that going to work?
I will be in the Bob Kurtz Radio Center, and that doesn't mean anywhere in particular. Sometimes it's just right now I'm in the Bob Kurtz Radio Center, as far as you know. So don't worry about where I'm at. I won't be in your studio, but I'll be in a studio, and it should be I think we'll have a much better connection next week when we do this. I know you're very much looking forward to tonight. I'm going to take Sweden in a landslide in the first game. I don't think the Finns have a chance in that first game, but what are you picking in the second game? Because I think that's going to be awesome.
Boy, did you see some of the comments, too, of Sweden and Finland players that it's little brother and big brother, no love lost between. Awesome. I think there's going to be some intensity in that game, too, starting in a couple minutes.
Oh, there's no doubt. I just don't think Finland can skate with the Swedes, but I think there'll definitely be intensity. It'll be fun, no doubt.
Well, that's all I need if you just give me the intensity. As far as tonight goes, I'm hopeful. I'm concerned that it's a 2010 situation where the U.S. beats them the first time, then loses in the championship game. But either way, I just want to see some effort and superstar talent matching up with them. That's what I want.
I can't wait. I think it's going to be a heck of a show. I'm happy that I've got nothing else going the rest of the day. I think I have another youth hockey game at some point, but it better not land at 7 o'clock because I'm going to have an eyeball on that game in Montreal. Way to fight through it, Brett. Great job, as always. Breakaways were A+, top-notch, and we'll look forward to doing it again next week.
Absolutely. Can't wait.
That's my buddy Brett Blakemore. Thanks to him, thanks to Pat Micheletti, and thanks to you, the listener, for checking us out here on a snowy Saturday all across the great state of hockey. Let's do it again next week. Same time, same place, 10 to noon, right here. It's Beyond the Pond, heard every week on KFAN.
For an extraordinary advantage in sports, you need a game plan. For an extraordinary advantage everywhere else, all you need is Acrisure. With a high-tech human approach to insurance, cybersecurity, and more, Acrisure helps you take care of what you care about. That makes winning easy. See what Acrisure's extraordinary advantage can do for you at Acrisure.com.